We actually haven't bought any AI technologies. We've built them all in-house. The reason we were able to do it was that the first thing we had to do was standardize the data we consume from our partners. So we get all of their feeds. None of the feeds are the same. They're all created differently.
Welcome to another episode of the e-commerce toolbox expert's perspective. Joining us today, we have Daniel Bennett, who's the CMO and head of e-com for furniture.com. Really excited to have you on the show. Welcome, Daniel.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm very curious because furniture.com is obviously a very, very specific domain. So at least we know exactly the space you're in. And more importantly, it launched in 2022. So maybe talk to us a bit about the launching story. I know you've been there since around the same time. Maybe talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, so three of us started the business or stood the business up around 3.5 years ago. The domain furniture.com, you probably won't be surprised to hear, has been around since the Jurassic days as it relates to the .com world. It's had a variety of lives, been owned by a variety of different groups. Our investor purchased the domain a couple of years before we came in to build the business, knowing that there was obviously some domain authority and some inherent value there. And then we spent about a year developing the back end and the stack. And then we launched the site April of 23. Funnily enough, the timing of this podcast is a good one. We're about to, I would say, introduce our 2.0 experience on furniture.com. A couple more months of roadmap development there. But by the end of this year and beginning of next, there's going to be quite a different experience up on the domain. So we're looking forward to getting that going. Fundamentally, the same premise, the idea that you can buy across multiple furniture retailers all in one place, something that you can't do currently. But there'll be some updated use of AI and search and semantic technologies that help that experience beyond where it is even now.
Very cool. And is there any brick and mortar component to this at all, or is there pure play online?
We are an online-only platform. Now, interestingly enough, within the furniture industry or within the furniture space, there are some statistics that underpin our business, one of which is actually that we know that people still love in the furniture setting to touch and feel and sit on or lie on a piece of furniture, especially at the higher end, because it's the third most expensive thing most people buy behind a house and a car. So the connection to retail is still important for us. And we ensure that all of our retail partners, and we have somewhere over 70 now, have an opportunity to take that traffic and drive them to a local store if they want to. So we're certainly in service of retail where it's necessary, but the site is an entirely online experience.
Very cool. And we're going to dive deeper into that. But I'm curious, how did you get involved in the business? What's your career journey? Like, how did you end up kind of in the position you're in today?
As you can tell by the accent here, I'm originally from London, but I've been over here in the US for about nearly 20 years. I came over here originally to work in the ad industry. I worked for the big creative ad holding companies. Most recently, I was at WPP, running digital and innovation for one of their large global networks. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, I moved out of agency life and via Carlyle Private Equity, was brought into a marketplace technology firm as part of a group to take that company public. Fast forward a couple of years after that, and I was the same group that brought me into my previous company reached out to connect me to the investor who wanted to spin up furniture.com. So myself and there are 3 of us that run the business, 2 Dans and an Alex. The other Dan was brought in around the same time. He's our head of technology. And we came in, joined Alex, and we started the hard yards of building this business from scratch. We're now a little over 80 people, 70 partners. We have 2 offices. I'm based in New York. And then we have our engineering hub, data science, AI team are all down in Atlanta. So it's been a fun journey. The 3.5 years have gone quickly. It's a bit like having little kids. The days definitely feel slow sometimes, but the years fly by. And we're pretty proud of where we've gotten to over that time.
Very cool. And what was the initial thesis behind the business? And have you guys kind of had to iterate or change it since launching?
Yeah, a few things have happened in that time. So when we originally stood up the business, we built the business on the premise that we would aggregate an audience and we would drive that high intent audience to our retail partners. And we were fundamentally going to be a cost per click based business. There were pillars other than that would be revenue generators for us within the space of data sharing with our partners, possibly retail media opportunities. What we realized after about 12 to 18 months was that the world had changed fairly substantially during that setup period. Organic traffic wasn't as readily available as it had previously been. The search game has changed quite a lot. And if you look at the economics of a CPC business, especially in furniture, we thought that it didn't have the potential that we really believed was inherent in the domain and the domain authority. The other thing we did, and I think it's important for all people building businesses, but we took a lot of time and spent a lot of money on understanding our audience. So we did a lot of segmentation, ton of research within our larger segment. And we understood pretty quickly that what the furniture shopper wants is not just a place to discover the perfect piece of furniture or the perfect room setup. They also want a place where they can check out once. So I can land on furniture.com in this instance, and I can buy from a bunch of retailers. And I don't mean drop ship, I mean main street retailers that people are familiar with, and I can check out in one cart experience. So that was the big pivot for us. We pivoted away from a CPC experience, and we're moving now into that full e-com CPA world where we're able to offer a direct sale for our retailers versus just high intent traffic. And that was a big change. And that's actually the change that predicated the updates to the platform that I mentioned earlier, which is us becoming a full e-commerce experience.
Very cool. And correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are not holding inventory, right?
We do not hold inventory, correct. We describe ourselves, we're a technology business in the service of furniture. We obviously have a ton of furniture expertise inherent in our business, but we're here to find and generate high value customers for our partners. We don't ship or hold furniture.
Very cool. And I know a lot of furniture players have a back and forth, short-term pressure, promotion driven to drive sales. You kind of start to erode your margin, you drop it. Curious, as you guys are aggregating across multiple different vendors, I'm sure at any given time, one vendor is effectively in a promotion cycle because they need to get the sales. How are you as like a CMO thinking about balancing that? Is the core value prop of the website that you have the variety and the technology helps you find the right piece? Or is it that you basically you want a couch and you're going to get the cheapest couch? Like, how are you guys looking at it? Is it a bit of both? I'm super curious on the back of that.
It depends on the shopper. I think increasingly, and currently people are obviously price conscious. We have a job to do, which is, we think about, of course, you'd expect me to say this, but it's a fact. We think about the consumer first. Is this a good consumer experience? And for us, the ability to highlight promotions as they're in market is key. And certainly furniture is very cyclical as it relates to promotional periods, right? You have President's Day, Memorial Day, Labor Day, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. There's a variety of them. In fact, there's probably one per month in most cases. So we will certainly reflect that on our site. And there's a few ways we do that. We pull in up to the minute pricing from all of our partners. So if you're searching for a blue modern sofa, we're going to be able to show you first and foremost the one that fits your palette most appropriately through our semantic search technology. So you can simply prompt our site based on very specific search criteria. Once we do that though, and you find that blue velvet tufted 92-inch modern velvet sofa, whatever it is you're looking for, once you have that, we will also show you the full price transparency. So it's an important component of a consumer search. It's very much front and center. We'll also show you if it's in store local to you, so you can go and sit on it. We'll show you how quickly it can deliver. Sometimes people are keen on something that will come quicker than slower and a little bit more expensive. So what we do is ensure that the experience is fully personalized. And if price is a key component of that personalization, we bring that to the fore.
If, call it 90% of people want to see the furniture before they buy it, how are you thinking about, okay, well, let's say they find something through your website, you paid to acquire that customer, you gave them a good experience, now they're going to go into a store and sit on it. How are you guys thinking about them not inadvertently hijacking the transaction and driving conversion through your platform?
Frankly, the nature of furniture is such that we know people want to see it. And so we can either sort of shy away from it or we can embrace it and directly offer the opportunity for people to go and sit on it and see it. And there's a couple of things that happen in that scenario. One is we're not able to follow that attribution all the way through. I mean, there's obviously a break in that. We have theories that as people wander into these stores, and remember, they'll be going to our partner stores. We work fully white glove with all of our partners. There's no scraping going on, so we have direct relationships with them all. So I get a sense that as people go in and they're referencing furniture.com, there's an inherent sense of value that our partners are seeing from that. The second thing is from a consumer point of view, if we've helped them on that journey and they've gone and found a sofa in a Raymore or a Bloomingdale's or one of our larger national partners or regional partners, there's a good chance they've had a good experience with us. And then as they come back and they're wanting to look to furnish that room with coffee table, lamp, a few other bits and pieces, I believe they'll come back to furniture.com. And it might be in that case we get them as a customer. I think we have to look at the life cycle of furniture, which is long, and just ensure we're an integral part of it somewhere. Now, I actually think the in-store experience is critical. They're very high value as a customer, furniture shoppers. But I think more and more people are getting comfortable with an online purchase. And I think we just want to be ready and positioned to support our partners as that transition happens as well. So that is a trade-off we have to make, but I think it's just an expected part of doing business in furniture.
Yeah, and more specifically on the business model of effectively selling but not holding the inventory, when it comes to delivery timelines, financing, and basically upholding the promises that you guys are putting out. And this isn't really just specific to furniture.com, but for those that are listening that are kind of in a similar position, how are you guys thinking about making sure that you don't set up the customer for a bad experience by promising things that are out of your control?
Yeah, so we actually, the way our checkout is built, the logistics and specifics around the transaction, around the delivery, around returns, customer service, etc., are all handled by our partners, by our retail partners. So if you were to come in and purchase a piece from, say, Lulu and George or One Kings Lane or one of our partners, that they have to be D2C examples, you're going to deal only with that retailer. So the experience that the customer has is as good as the experience they would have if they had gone directly to that partner, and because they're dealing with them and them only. We do have customer service, of course. So if there's an issue with order fulfillment or the process of that, we have a call center and we have digital solutions for that. But if there is a conversation to be had around shipping, etc., financing, whatever that might be, that happens with our partners. And the reason for that, candidly, is, as we say to our partners, we want these people to become our partners' customers. Now, on furniture.com, as it relates to checkout, you can still select delivery, you can choose timelines, you can do all of those things. But when it comes to the fulfillment of it, and it's made clear during our checkout process, they're going to be able to rely on the customer experience that comes with each of our retailers.
Very cool. On the technology side then, and like you had kind of alluded to it earlier by investing in AI, it sounds very much to me like a lot of the value you folks are creating is in the discovery. It's a category that maybe hasn't been able to crack D2C super easily because of the reasons that you had mentioned. How are you guys thinking about that? Like, is your goal to get less people to need to sit on the furniture before buying it, and you're trying to grow that 10% to 50%? Curious a bit to learn a bit about that and how technology can potentially accelerate that if that's the goal.
Let me give you a little primer on furniture. And you're probably familiar with this, but for you or your listeners, it might be helpful to have some context here. So one of the things that online furniture retailers struggle with is trust. When we first started the business, we worked with one of the big consultancies to do a pretty exhaustive study on where the main pain points were of furniture. And trust is it's a big issue. And if you bought furniture online, you can understand that if it shows up broken or the wrong size or the wrong color or whatever. So we knew we had to overcome that hurdle. Fundamentally, we knew we had to instill confidence at every step in the process as it related to purchasing a piece of furniture. Whether it's a lamp or a $6,000 sofa, I need to feel confident enough to click. The first thing we had to do, and you referenced AI, we actually haven't bought any AI technologies. We built them all in-house, which for those of you that can't see, I'm bald, but I had a full, beautiful head of hair before we started that process because it's absolute bare. The reason we were able to do it was that the first thing we had to do was standardize the data we consume from our partners. So like I said, we work directly with retailers, so we get all of their feeds. None of the feeds are the same. They're all created differently. They're in different platforms. They're tagged differently. Photography is all different. The naming conventions for style categories is different, if you can believe that. But what might be modern at one company is not modern at another. The first 12 months of our effort at furniture.com was to standardize the data we have. In other words, we built AI technologies that would consume these feeds, and we would justify each category. We'd ensure that the colors and all of the attributes were correctly tagged across everything we have. And we have in excess of 2 million SKUs on furniture.com. The reason that's important is it enabled us then to build the search technology and the viewing tools that we have now such that they're uniform across our site. So much so that when you come onto furniture.com, and it will be even more the case at the end of the year and in Q1, and you simply search semantically, you ask it in a human way what you're looking for, you're going to see products that are extremely close to what you're looking for. We felt like that was the first step in building trust with the customer. The second thing is we're developing technologies that allow you to see it in your room. Now, we know that already exists in many ways, but one of the things people often want to see is how big is it in real life? How can we factor that in? So we're looking at all of these technologies that help to build that trust wall, help to instill confidence. The other thing is we go through the process right now, but we have a team in-house that connects with every purchase that happens for the time being to ask about their experience. Now, sometimes that's a digital feedback loop, but more often than not, it's a call if they're available and open to it. So we're capturing a ton of real-time data from our shoppers. So again, if there are pain points they're seeing that we're not feeling in our QA and our testing, we're optimizing based on that as well. So I don't know that we fully cracked it yet, but it's the one thing we know we need to get right. So to your point, that people feel comfortable clicking buy now on that sectional that's a lot of money. Even if it's a $600 or $700 sofa, for folks, that's a lot of dough. Let's make sure that they feel confident. And ultimately, when they get it, they feel happy that they spent time with us.
Makes a lot of sense. And you'd mentioned obviously trust. And then when you make the decision that you want this, it comes to, can you actually afford it? And I think it'll be my generation that becomes the famous generation that financed their Starbucks order. So I can't imagine what they're doing with their furniture. I know when I look at my parents or my grandparents, never would have financed furniture. And then I think my parents' age probably put it on a credit card, then paid it off in a couple cycles. I think the next generation's doing what they're doing with the flexible payments. So I'm curious to learn a bit about the flexible payment side of the business. How does that work? You'd mentioned that you align the payments to the different brands. What if I have a cart with 3 different companies and I want to finance the whole thing? Do I need to do kind of 3 different transactions? I'm curious technologically even how you guys made that work.
So the transaction would be one transaction in that example. We work with an agentic partner for the checkout process. So, in theory, you could check out 100 pieces and it would be one cart. The financing component is an important one. Finance is important in furniture for retailers and for shoppers. So we offer the ability to pull through finance offers from partners. So if you're going to check out on a sofa, and we'll pull through that financing information from that retail partner if they want that to be something that's given as an example either in the cart or within even a PDP experience. There is probably opportunity for us down the road to offer financing solutions ourselves so that you could look at the whole cart in that way. I don't think we have a ton of ambition to do that right now because we don't want to disintermediate the customer experience with the retailer if they have a particular retailer of choice. I think the ability to see financing terms is important for a shopper. I don't know that it's critical yet for us as it relates to making the shopper experience better for us to offer it. And again, like I said, I think if we're in the service of the furniture shopper, we just want to make sure we're delivering technologies and solutions that make that experience better. Shopping for furniture is a pain in the butt right now. Just to be honest with you, it's a experience that most people have a tough time with. There are a ton of workarounds that people put in place, using Google Sheets and Pinterest and ways to bring it all together so they can see their furniture choices in one place. And our ambition is that people can do away with all of those things, that on furniture.com we'll offer all of those solutions bundled into one shopping experience, one ability to create favorites lists to share with friends and family, to see 3D models, and then ultimately to bundle that into one cart and check out from there.
I recently had on someone who was in the mattress space and they talked about it being like it's a considered purchase. People want to lay on it. And then also it's like you don't buy a mattress every week. I suspect furniture is similar, but probably not to the same extreme because you could have multiple pieces of furniture in a house. How are you thinking about like customer acquisition, like breaking even on the first transaction? Is this like an LTV play?
Probably it's more the latter. We look at a lifetime cycle of, say, 13 months for a furniture shopper. Like you said, it varies. I might not be changing my sofa. Maybe I change my sofa once every 8 years, but in the interim, I'm buying tables and lamps and mattresses and bed frames and dining tables and dining chairs. So there's a sort of 28-day cycle for many furniture pieces that we're pretty aware of and pretty active in. As it relates to our customer acquisition costs, we don't look to break even on that first purchase necessarily. We do have some average order volume goals internally that we attempt to adhere to. As it relates to lifetime value, though, I think that's where our long-term strategy lies. How do we ensure that we find the right shopper for the right price? How do we ensure that we have a site experience that enables them and promotes the need to come back and spend time with us? How do we build in network effects such that they can share pieces with friends and family, which further exposes our business to them? We're obviously thinking about how we can create value through multiple digital channels, not to mention the fact that we're about to start marketing more heavily top down as well. So the value of a domain like furniture.com is that it, as we say in England, it sort of does what it says on the tin. I understand what it is just from the domain. The downside of it could well be that I look at that and think, well, why haven't I heard of furniture.com before? Right? .coms, that should have been around. And the fact of the matter is because it's never done what it should have done before, correct? And so now we have a job to do, which is to go out nationally and remind people or to tell people what furniture.com actually is, what the new version of furniture.com is. That comes down to, in some regards, old-fashioned brand work. How do I show up in the right channels? How do we spend the right amount of money so that when you're looking for your next mattress or sofa, the first place you go to is furniture.com. How do I get to a place where I'm disintermediating some of the big platforms that currently take some of the percentage of my media spend? Because when you're looking for that next thing, you come to furniture.com. There are other examples of that in other industries that work very successfully. You know, if I'm looking for a flight, personally, I go to Kayak. If I'm looking for accommodation, I might start at Airbnb. If I'm searching for music, I'm on Spotify. Those are utilities within those industries. They are fundamental to how those industries work. They're almost a center of gravity. And we want furniture.com to be as robust in furniture as those parallels are. It's a big job to do. We spent 3 years getting it in a place where we think we're ready to do it now. And honestly, mate, on top of that, it's just about spending money. Let's get it in front of people.
I love it. And as we look to wrap up, Dan, wanted to really give you my appreciation for your time, and it's a phenomenal episode.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me talk at you for 20 minutes. I appreciate it, mate.
That was perfect.
The e-commerce toolbox Expert Perspectives is brought to you by Noivo. To find out more about Noivo and how we can help you debug your e-commerce site and rocket your revenue, visit www.noivo.com. That's noibu.com. And then make sure to search for the e-commerce toolbox Expert Perspectives on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and click subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Noivo, thanks for listening.